In this video, I wanted to take a closer look at the Gutenberg editor to make sure you're comfortable with how it works. So again, you will want to be using the Gutenberg editor when possible and only use the Elementor page builder or any sort of page builder when necessary. So I'm going to hit add new post. And then we can add a title. So this is the title of the article, and then you have the Gutenberg editor here. So you can add in basically any sort of block that is built into Gutenberg by default, and then you can change the text to align in different ways. There's usually a series of settings here. Bold, so you can bold things, you can underline. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, right here should be underline. Oh, that's interesting. Where is the underline? Okay, I'm actually gonna have to look that up. 1 second here. Okay, so I don't know why they did this, but apparently there's no option for it, so you just have to use a command or a shortcut. So Control U or Command U. So if you highlight something, then I'm on a Windows, so Control U, that should underline it. And of course it didn't underline the G, I think because it goes below the line. So there we go. Control U is underlining this text. So that's how you underline, and then you can add a link here, You can add a link, and then you can add in the URL, and then here you can edit it. So you can edit the text, and you can decide whether it opens in a new tab, mark as no follow, things of that nature. And then the other thing about the Gutenberg editor is you can have different settings depending on, there's just a whole lot you can do, and I can't cover everything, so it's just going to be a matter of like, okay, how can I do this? You'll have to Google it. So like I just Googled, how do I underline? So you'll have to figure out the individual things that you want to learn. But over here on the right, there are different settings. So we can change settings on the post or on the block itself. So this is going to cover the entire post, and then this is just going to be the individual block. So the individual block settings are going to change based on what type of block you're editing. So if you have an image, if I do a slash and then image, I'm going to have different settings available to me. So I'm going to go ahead and pick an image. I'm going to pick this guitar. And so now we have different settings on the image, like alternative text, because you can see here this block is underlined, it's selected. So we can add alt text for the visually impaired, but there is no such thing as alt text on a paragraph because the paragraph itself is text. So we don't need text to describe text. So you can see we have different block settings over here. And so if I want to change, let's say I want to change maybe the color. So I can highlight this and change the text color to red. Okay, I guess it changes the whole thing. And if I want to change the background, I can change the background of that block. Cool. So that's not very visible, but it just illustrates the settings that we have available to us. And then let's change the font size. And I'm not a fan of that, so let's change it back. I think medium is the default, or we might just be able to reset. Okay, there we go. So the next thing is I wanted to talk about is columns. So if we're down here, okay, we can also move things. So let's click this, and let's say I want to move it below the image. I can just hit down arrow and it'll go below the image. And then there's also columns. So if you want like a text block next to another text block, we can do that. So this part's kind of, I don't like how this works, but let's add a column. So if in an empty block, we can hit the plus, and then we can find columns by searching for column. So I'm going to click columns, and then you can select whichever column you want, but I'm going to select the 50-50 column. And so now we got 2 blocks next to each other, and then an outer block as well. So, and let's also make some text below this so I can see easier. Okay, so I'm going to say hello and enter hello more text, more text. Okay, so again, we have our 2 column block here. So I'm going to add a paragraph into it. Paragraph 1. And then over here, paragraph 2. Okay. And so to make things easier, let's change the background colors. So if I click here, this is the paragraph block. We can change the background color. I'm going to change it to like a pinkish. And then I'm going to change this one to a green. And I don't know if your eye caught this, but this text moved from up here to like down here in the more centered area. I don't know why it did that when I entered the background color. So I gotta be honest, I don't know what's going on there. Apologize for that, but we have a couple of different things that we can do. So you'll notice that if you click here directly on the paragraph, you can't really move it up and down. You can only move it, well, you can't even move it left to right. But if you click out, if you click outside a little bit, that'll allow you to move things to the right and left. And that's because you're clicked on the column itself. And then, so rather than the paragraph inside of the column. So over here, if you look at the block settings, we have a setting, and then over here, there's like this little semicircle thing, and this allows you to adjust the styles. So if I click here, and then I hit background, and then I say, okay, well, let's give it a gray background. Well, now that's the background for the column itself. So we can do the same thing over here. And this again allows us to move left and right because we've selected the column. Again, you have to click outside of just slightly outside. And that's kind of why I wish WordPress would have like a little border or something. That way you can differentiate between what's what. So I don't like that part because it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. But if you click just outside the paragraph, you'll have access to the column itself. And then, so you can adjust the width settings, you can add an HTML anchor, add CSS classes. That's coding stuff that we're not going to get into, but you can adjust the styles. So I'm going to say background for this one will be like the light blue. Okay, there we go. And so now we have the ability to access, now we can see the difference between the columns and the blocks within the columns. And I think I might have just clicked on an outer section itself that contains the columns. So you can think of it as like a big box with 2 smaller boxes. So like here's the big box, and then there's 2 smaller boxes inside, and these smaller boxes are the columns, and then smaller boxes inside of those, which are the paragraphs. And I'm thinking, so let me change the style one more time, and we're going to change this to like a purple. Yep, there we go. So that is kind of a mess. And this is Gutenberg. I don't know, this might be why people don't like it, but I don't know. So now I think we can add more I know we can add paragraphs and other columns inside of I'm sorry, not columns, but we can add other paragraph blocks and other types of blocks inside of the column. So if I wanted an image, let's say I want hello more text, and then I wanted an image inside of the column, I can do that. We can say media library, and then let's add this this tower here. Okay, so now we have a tower inside, and then now we can move things up and down inside of the column. But then if we want to move the column itself over to the right, we can just click on the column itself, and then we can move it over to the right. So that's a beginner to almost intermediate overview of how the Gutenberg editor works. Anything beyond that, and you're probably going to be looking at maybe a little bit of code or some plugins to install to enhance the functionality of the Gutenberg editor, which you can totally do. You can go into plugins, add something like, I don't know, maybe if you want an accordion, there's probably an accordion plugin somewhere. I don't know. But ultimately, you can enhance functionality of Gutenberg with plugins. And so I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And then you also have the ability to edit post level settings as well. So if you click post, you can edit the author. If you have multiple authors, you can edit the visibility, public, private, password protected. You can edit the publish date, the template, which is an advanced feature. So if the theme or there's maybe a plugin that you can use that can add new templates, you can use a different template for this post. You can change the URL. So hello, I am a title. You could just change it to whatever you want it to be. And then we'll talk about this URL structure in another tutorial. And then, yeah, you switch to draft. You can add categories. So I'm going to say test, parent category. I'm going to say maybe JavaScript. Well, I guess WordPress is more appropriate. Okay, so now we can say that this blog post is about test and it's about WordPress. You can also add tags, which are very similar to categories. So I'm going to say testing, WordPress, and I don't know, JavaScript. Okay, so those are the tags. These are both just very similar ways to filter posts throughout the site. And then you can add a featured image. So featured image, I'm going to say we're going to use this one. Set featured image. And so this is going to be something that would show up like on the hero section of this particular blog post. And I'll talk to more about that in a little bit. But this is something that usually, like most established blogs, will use a separate featured image for each blog post. And then, yeah, so there's just a bunch of different options that you can do. I think this is a pretty good overview of the Gutenberg editor, and it also talks more about posts. So I think that's it for this video. Anything else, and you'll have to Google that specific thing that you're looking for. Please subscribe to this channel for more videos and articles dedicated to helping you build an amazing website without writing code. We also cover topics like SEO and growing your business. Click the bell to be notified about our latest videos, and let us know what you thought by liking the video and leaving a comment. Finally, check out our website in the description to see our latest products and services we offer and how we can help you accomplish your goals.